Good Morning Miramar, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m., right here, right now.
Good morning, Miramar. My name is Danielle Rialis, Marketing Coordinator with the City of Miramar's Office of Marketing and Public Relations. We are thrilled this morning to be bringing you another wonderful segment of Beyond Boundaries with Dr. Shaniqua Fleming. I'm so excited to have Dr. Shaniqua Fleming joining us again this morning to share her expertise and a great conversation on personal and interpersonal growth. We also have a very special guest this morning, Dr. Tracy Timberlake. Good morning.
Good morning, Tracy. Good morning, Danielle.
Thank you so much for you ladies for being here today. I'd like to give everyone a little bit of a background on Dr. Tracy Timberlake. She's actually an award-winning digital strategist and video YouTube blogger. She's had very humble beginnings for making videos on her bathroom floor, and she has amassed her brand to multiple six-figure businesses with millions of lives impacted. She also has over 3 million video views on YouTube to date. She's a pioneer in her industry and an expert in the field of digital leadership and entrepreneurship. She coaches her clients on how to use their influence to garner success and build their own successful brands. She's been featured in a wide variety of publications, including Forbes, The Huffington Post, Entrepreneur Magazine, and the Miami Herald. She's worked with clients and brands such as Herbal Essence, Marc Jacobs, and Cosmopolitan Magazine. If you need an expert in the digital space, Dr. Tracy Timberlake is your girl. So good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're so excited for today's segment, and I'll have Dr. Fleming kind of introduce it and tell us a little bit about what we're going to talk about this morning.
Well, first of all, Tracy, thank you so much for being here today. And Danielle, it's always a pleasure.
Always.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure talking with you and the people that we get an opportunity to just converse with about things that matter. Today we're going to talk a little. It's April, and I know it's April. What's today's date? The 6th.
Yes.
But April 1st, you know, we kind of had this whole talk, Tracy, about April Fool's Day, right? And so we don't want people to be fooled. And one of the things that we know is when we show up in the online space, or any space for that matter, there's often things that don't translate what they're supposed to be.
Right.
So that's kind of what, you know, where we'll be going today a little bit. But before we get into that, I want to just say, I met Tracy about a year ago, almost now, if even that long, right? And I will tell you, the relationship that we've developed has truly transformed how I show up as a leader. And it's all because of your expertise in this space, and I'm very thankful for that. Well, you know, just really creating that platform for me to showcase those things that really are near and dear to me. So when we thought about who could be the person that we talk with, you, of course, were the first person that came to mind. And so that's why we're here today. And so as Danielle said, this segment really is geared for us to look within ourselves, but also look around us to see how are we utilizing our strengths? How are we even showing up, not just in a physical presence, but how do we show up in the work we do? How do we show up in the lives we live? And in fact, are we making an impact, or are we just existing? And so today we want to talk a little bit about, you know, presence, how we show up, authenticity, and all those great things. So I want to turn it over to you, Tracy, just to kind of, you know, say your good morning openings, and we'll go from there.
Well, good morning. Thank you again for having me.
You're welcome.
I love this topic, of course, because it is something that I feel like my entire life is built up to this, to be truthful. I think when it comes to authenticity, you can only be yourself. You know, like, it takes an incredible amount of energy to try and be something that you're not.
Right.
Right. And I think a lot of the times, you can look at what's happening in the scope of the world. It doesn't matter what industry, It doesn't matter whether you're man, woman, and it's very easy for people to sort of get caught up in, well, that's what they're doing, and so I should do that, because if I want to emulate success, let me just do the exact same thing. And while I do believe that success leaves tracks, that success is also going to come with that person's version of authenticity, or that person's experiences, that person's culture, that person, their education, all of that plays a part in it. And I think we are now on this cusp where people are starting to own that in themselves, but because they've never been taught it, right, they sort of get lost in the mix.
That's right. I think I'm actually working on a talk, and as I'm working on this talk, I I want to start with an opening story to kind of give people an idea of where I'm going with this and why it's even important. And as I was thinking about that, I don't want to give it away yet, but there was just this one question and you made me think about that. When we think back to when we knew what we were going to do or who we were going to be, I mean, we are who we always were, right? But we lose that some kind of way. And then to your point, Tracy, it starts to be reshaped by things that may or may not even align with who we are supposed to be or how we're supposed to show up. And so my first question for you is, if you had to open up this dialogue with, I guess, some starter advice for someone that is wanting to be authentic, what would you say to them?
I think, well, it's going to depend on the context, but
Right.
if somebody is wanting to be authentic, I would start by asking them a series of questions about who they are. What do you love just naturally? What do you like? And it can start from favorite color to, this is my favorite activity. I think when we start to explore those or allow ourselves to explore them, right? We start to uncover so much about ourselves. Like, as you said, something gets lost from the time you're 9 years old to the time that you're 19. There's something that you start to lose because you start to think of what other people are saying. You have so many people in that age that are speaking into your life. Parents, teachers, strangers, aunts, uncles, cousins, and a lot of the times you adopt their version of the world, not your own. And then you start to think that your own version is wrong because that's not what someone else sees. So I think going back to what is it that you like to do? Like you like to do, what do you do by yourself? What do you enjoy? What books are you reading just for fun, not because you want to, read them because you need to get a new job, but what do you read for fun? What do you do for fun? I would start there and then start to explore.
I like that. One of the things that I find amazing is the things that we like and our strengths, those things are sometimes different. Well, a lot of times they're different from the person even sitting next to us, and they're supposed to be, because it's those very things that are different for us that really are our strengths. And when we can find a way to tap into that, that's when true life starts to happen, right? So something else you said earlier, you talked about, people pouring into you. And people influencing you in some kind of way. So this whole notion of influence, what do you think about it?
It's so interesting. I don't have kids, I know you do, but I think it's so interesting. On this side of the table, I get to look back at my life and I feel like I'm reliving every single thing again. Because I can see how when I was 9, this happened. When I was 6, this happened, and a parent said something. And parents, with the utmost of intention, like you want to keep your kids safe and you want to keep your kids protected. Same goes with teachers and other adults that speak into lives. I think, but you have to remember that there is a part of them that has to come out. And you can't project your desire onto them unknowingly sometimes. Right? And so often I see parents and children being complete opposites. My mom and I are complete opposites. And one thing that I always say I appreciated so much is that she just let me do
your thing,
whatever I wanted. I mean, it was a safe space. Home was a soft place to land for me, so I could go out and make mistakes and never felt judged and never felt like. But a lot of times people don't have that experience, and then they're cloaked by that as an adult, which is unfortunate. But I think having that childhood allowed me and my brother and I to really explore careers that are not typical. My brother plays professional basketball overseas. Like most parents would be like, listen, that's a 1 in a million shot. No, but my mom was like, all right, how much are those shoes? You know what I mean? So I think that that's important, and to just be aware that there are things inside of us, and even me as like the auntie, I'm like, am I ruining this child's life? Like, what am I doing? Like, because I know, like, I had aunts and uncles who spoke into my life that affected me. And so I'm thinking, I have a lot of children who are very close to me, who I love because they're family, or even if they're not family, I love them like they are. And I'm like, make sure I'm doing the right thing. I don't want to be that auntie and they're like 30 years old going, Auntie Tracy said.
It was your fault. And that's, I love that you said that, because what I remember when I was younger, and I shared this story before with Danielle, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And my mom told me, no, actually it was a psychologist. And she says, no, they don't make any money. And so she was very clear, that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of followed what, I thought I was supposed to do. But fast forward to today, when I work in organizations or with leaders, what I find is that these people come to work and they are leading others and they're leading organizations, and they're leading from a place that they are not true to. And so what happens is that's where you have the discord, that's where you have the disconnects, and through the coaching process, when they truly align with who they are, then they start to flourish. Then the organization starts to benefit. So I think there's so much benefit in really cultivating that in people and kids, and because those kids grow up to be adults that really do change the world.
Yeah, which is why I love your work, I think, because you elicit that sort of authenticity in a lot of leaders so that they even recognize it, because it's a lot of times it's not even a part of the conversation.
Yeah. Right? I think for me it was about 2 years ago. Well, actually I never liked the question, what do you do? And I would hear the question and I would answer the question, but I would just cringe because it was like, I'm so much more than what I do.
Yeah.
And I decided like 2 years ago, I'm not answering that question anymore. And then I got tested and someone was like, what do you do? And I said, oh, here we go. And I said, well, the better question is, what do I believe? And I really do believe people are the most valuable resource, and so I invest in them. And every time I say that, it's not like it's not an elevator pitch. It's really from my core. People stop in their tracks and they're wondering like, wow,
right?
Exactly.
What is that? Like, that is who I am. And I can remember when I was younger, you talk about careers that you don't recognize. I can remember school would be out and I would gather the neighborhood kids around and I would teach what was probably known as summer school. But I didn't see it as summer school because I didn't want to be a teacher, but I didn't know anything else that looked like what I wanted to do. And I've heard you tell your story and I said, yeah, that resonates with me. And so what I was doing really was, I would always say to them, I'm getting you ready for next year. And so when I started to come into this world of OD, if you will, and I remember the first time I facilitated a team building session. I'd never done it before, and I think I told this story on air before. My professor tricked me and said he was hoarse, he didn't feel well, and so I had to do it. And it felt right, it felt natural, it felt like I had been doing it all my life. And last night I thought about that, and I said, you know what, I had been doing it all my life. That's why it felt so natural and it was so authentic for me. But it wasn't a teacher's role. So when you think of what you're doing today, did you always know that you would be doing this?
That's, again, an interesting question, because I think, so when I went to school, I had a professor who was so adamant. He was like, you need to start your own business, Tracy. He was like, you got to start your own business. I'm telling you, you'd be great at it. And I'm like, no, never going to do that. Like, I'm never going to do that. Because it sounded like sales, like, or I had to invent something, and I'm like, I'm not an inventor. Like, what would I start a business or what? However, I can also remember that time and thinking to myself, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life after I get out of school. I was like, I have no clue. And part of it is because I don't think that the thing that I wanted to do existed, right? Like, when I got out of college, there was no social media, there was no YouTube. Facebook had just opened up my senior year of college to the public. And I remember being the first one. I was like, I'm signing up for this. And I was like, this is going to be the next big thing. But, I didn't know anything then. I was 21. The point is that, did I know growing up? Not to a degree. I did know in the core of my being that there would be something that I would do that would have massive impact and influence. That is what I knew. And it was so strange having that in my mind, but seeing what everyone else was doing and then hiding it because it wasn't I didn't have an answer. Like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I would just make stuff up. I don't know. I want to be a teacher.
What sounds good
be a lawyer.
Right.
Right. I was literally lying. I would even when I applied to college, every college that I applied to had a different major because I was like, I don't know what I want to do,
Wow.
I applied to great schools, all different majors, because I just didn't know. So I think when I did find it, just like you, it was like instant. It was, this is it. This is terrific. I love every bit of this. And it was easy and it was natural, and if only people could flow into the easy and the natural and accept it as this is actually what life should look like. Right? Because I had a client the other day, I was like, actually, this is probably where you should start going. Like, this is what you should explore. She was like, but that sounds so easy. And I was like, exactly.
It's supposed to be.
Right. It's supposed to be easy. Why would you want things to be hard? But we're so used to the concept of we have to work hard.
Yeah.
You know, we have to work our way up to success. And I just don't believe in those concepts.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think that's what drew me to you. And I will tell you, I always knew in my heart what I should be, what I would be, and how I would express it. I too didn't know how that was going to happen, and I tried a lot of things, and then I always wondered, why do I have these interests? I have many of them, food being a great one. But
We need to incorporate that.
one of the things that, right, and I try
Food
to
segment.
write a food segment. I think I have an idea. So what connected us, Tracy and Daniel, what connected Tracy and I was the fact that you just said something, hiding behind that. So for me, you know, that was my thing for many years. All the work that I was doing, the passion that I have for leadership, the innovative ways that I approach leadership development, I was hiding it. I was hiding it. And someone sent me an inbox of Tracy, and I'm like, what is this? Like, it was the visibility challenge. And I'm like, really? Visibility? That's the last thing I want to hear I am on camera. This was like not ever what I wanted to do. And I remember something you said about, you know, really creating a platform for these things, and if I'm not sharing it, then I'm just as responsible for the things that are being shared that aren't good. And that resonated with me because I do believe in being a part of the solution and not the problem. And so for me, it was what you do in terms of creating that visibility. It's so needed. And then I looked at, you know, this whole digital era and how all the time that I'd spend in organizations, I felt like I was behind the 8 ball of what I needed to be doing. And to your point, going along, climbing, and, you know, inevitably excelling at the things that I did because that's what I do. I'm a high performer. But it was to the point of finding, okay, if I take another turn, am I starting all over? You know, am I at the bottom of the ladder? And I had to totally reframe that and say, no, I'm setting the real foundation for the life that I am supposed to have and live. And so with that being saying, this whole visibility thing, how does that play out for you? How do you feel about that, knowing that your face is your brand and your brand is your face, and what you put out there is what people are looking for all the time?
Right. You know, I don't think that the concept is that novel. You know, like I feel like in the 80s, like, you know, actors, like celebrities, politicians, it's the same. Like their brand is their face, and what they stand on is the thing that they talk about. And now with the dawn of social media, I mean, the internet has changed everything, right? And it took 20 years for the entire world to change, because now it is, I mean, when you look at just the broad spectrum of where the world is going, everything flows into digital. And so it's given people a lot of opportunity to get visible.
Right.
And to share a message that they may never have shared. Now, will everybody, you know, approach that like you are, and I'm going to start a business about it? No. There may be somebody who just has a story that they feel like could impact lives. It could impact one life. It doesn't matter. But making a video to talk about it is a good thing. And sometimes I think people need that creative outlet to just share what is on their heart, what experiences they've had. And it doesn't have to be this massive, I want to be famous on Instagram. It just has to be, I want to serve someone I feel like this can, so let me contribute to the good stuff. Right. Because if you look in the online space, there's going to be a lot of bad, of like a lot of people being highlighted for doing not so great things. Now let's highlight the people who are doing some real, or who have something that is of value to other people.
And I definitely notice in the digital space, you can pick out really easily the people who are being true to themselves and authentic, and people who are doing it to say, you know what, let me just do it because I think I'll be famous.
I want to be Instagram famous.
I'll be Instagram famous or social media famous, YouTube famous, whatever. And what would you say to maybe those people who want to maybe pursue something like that, but they don't know how, or they feel like maybe I'm doing this for the wrong reasons?
Well, I think that's a good question. First, you need to ask yourself if you're doing it for the right reasons. If you ever approach YouTube, Instagram, the online space, and you're just like, I'm going to get famous, it's going to happen in 2 months, this is going to be amazing, I'm going to make a viral video, you're doing it for the wrong reasons right now. Like, just don't. But you have to understand all the people who are in the online space, excuse me, who are doing this, they've been doing this for years. Like, 5, 6, 7, 10 years since YouTube has been around. They've been at this. And so what seems like an overnight success took 10 or 15 years to make, you know? And I think people lack patience. Yeah. They think, I'm going to go on. If I don't get, 10,000 subscribers in 2 months, then I'm doing it wrong. You're not doing it wrong. You're actually doing it right. That's exactly what everybody else did. It took a while to get to that point. And so I would say, but if you do want to get started and you're like, no, it's okay, I'm just going to get started. I don't want to be famous. I just want to help what I can help, or I just want to share what I can share. Then it's as easy as picking up a phone.
Right, or talk about what I like.
Yeah, and the more passionate you are about the topics, the more authentic it becomes, and the easier it is to deliver.
It does become easier.
Because you're not trying to conjure up some sort of fake passion about something that you're disinterested in. So the more passion you have about the topics that you're talking about, then the better it is.
Definitely.
I will tell you that that's a real-time revelation for me in terms of having lived that, right? You said something, people that actually are quote-unquote famous in these spaces, it took them a while to get there. On the other side of that, there are people that have been doing all of the things that they've been passionate about, but didn't understand how to leverage this space. And that was me. That's not me anymore because I am learning to leverage it, but that really was me. And it was almost intimidating. No, not almost. It was intimidating
it is.
For me to look at this space. And I remember thinking, wow, by the time I really figure all of this out, it's going to change again. And I do believe in the power of prayer. And I remember praying, and I know that's how I met you, because it was just like, I'm never going to figure all this out. And here's the real truth. I don't want to.
Right.
But it's about creating alignments, because there really is no competition. And in this space in this, when we're authentic and we're truly walking in the power of who we are, then we will align with people that will complement that, right? And I always hear you say that the desire that I had, you had that desire to be able to help and support someone like me. So it was inevitable that we met. Right. And so as that happens, I realized that all of these things that I've been doing, I'm not behind the 8 ball. I'm right where I'm supposed to be, because there really is no loss of time. In fact, it just becomes the expansion of the purpose and really highlighting those things that are really, really core for me. And it started for me with my values. Like, these are the things that are really core and true to who I am. And so now I'm going to share that. And as you share that, you connect with people and it resonates with them. And I used to think like, old school thinking, well, you separate your personal from the professional, because that's how I was taught in everything. Right. There were times I remember going to job interviews, I didn't wear my wedding band because there was that mindset that if you're a woman and you're a young woman,
get pregnant.
You're going to get
you're
pregnant.
You're going to go on maternity leave.
Right, you're going to go on maternity leave, and we're not going to hire you. And so, again, I was faking this funk of, I want this job, so I'm not going to tell them anything about who I really am. And the truth of the matter is that would have never worked for me, because I love my family and I love my kids, and they are not going to come behind a job. In fact, I've made career moves and career decisions to be able to support them in a way that's meaningful for me. So I'm thankful for the work that you do, Tracy, because I really didn't know where to begin with that. And it's, like you said, you're thankful for the work that I do, but I'm really thankful for the work that you do, because it helps to highlight the things that, really matter to other people. And I'm thankful for, the work that Danielle does, because a segment like this allows us to take things that you and I could talk about on the phone or whatever and bring it to the forefront. Right. And we do. And bring it to the forefront so others that are having these same questions, these same thoughts, they can see that we're real people. We're all real people with real passion, and together we can find ways to highlight them in a way that's meaningful and makes sense in this big old digital space.
Absolutely. 100%. And I think if there's one thing that I can share with people, like, if anything, trust who you were created to be. Just every passion, every instinct, every desire. You didn't give yourself those things. So just trust that those are always and have always been the things that are meant to sustain you. That we hide behind the fear of, really it's a fear of lack and fear of scarcity. We think, well, if I don't get this job, or if I don't get this career or get this degree, then I'm gonna be homeless and poor. And I'm like, I don't know anybody that's homeless and poor. Let's start with that. I mean, even people who are like, I'm gonna just throw everything up against the wall and live in my car for a second. they become successful just because they know inside that it's what they're meant to be. But gosh, trust who you are, trust every desire and every want and every wish, because those are the things at the end of the day that can really change the world. And if everybody believed that, if everybody was like, I can change the world, even if you just change your world, that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
I love that you said that, because it's not just about having a huge impact and maybe quantifying your influence. More of, like you said, changing your world, changing your small group, and if you do it with love and passion, I think you can make anything happen.
Absolutely, and it starts there.
Yeah, and I think those definitives that we put on things like small or huge, or that's where I think people get lost. Just do it. Just have the impact. Just make the decision. Just be. Really, it's just about being, right?
Yeah.
So, that being said, thank you for being our guest today, and thank you for being who you are, because I think that your message resonates not only with us, but I'm sure all of those that are watching, it resonates with each of you. And thank you for watching, because it's, it's moments like these that we really go forth and we're able to make better decisions, make better, create better relationships, create better alignment in our life, and do and be all those things that we desire without fear.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Both
you.
of you. Love having this conversation. I think it's really important.
Me
And
too.
we're inviting all of you, if you have any comments or would like to add more to the conversation, be sure to reach out to us. We're on social media at City of Miramar. You can comment on this Facebook feed, or you can reach out to us on Twitter or Instagram at City of Miramar. Remember, Good Morning Miramar is live every Tuesday and Thursday. The second Tuesday of every month, we air Beyond Boundaries with Dr. Fleming, so we want to invite you to come in next month for the next conversation. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and remember, it's right here in Miramar. Bye-bye.
Bye.